There is no place better to try out the new 2018 Royal Enfield Himalayan than in India, right here where they make it. So this is the 2018 Royal Enfield Himalayan, and it's new to the US this year. In India, they refer to this as the LS4 engine, which just means that it's the fuel injected, it's the newest generation of the motor. In the States, we're just gonna know it is the Himalayan. Its price point is right at the bottom of the barrel. It's an easy buying at $4,500 US. It's got 24 horsepower, 400 cc's, and 410 pounds. As I rode this bike, it occurred to me that there are really two riders that really are being targeted for this motorcycle specifically. One is that entry-level adventure riders, just looking for something that's economical, easy to get into, that's a simple machine, simple to work on, that can take them up onto the trails. The other one, and the one I think that really stands out, is the rider that just wants to feel like they have one of those old school bikes and they like the idea of like the 1930s and 1940s traveling around the world kind of stuff. Because this bike has that feel. It feels like one of those old school bikes where you just putter through these villages. But because it's a newer machine and it's a more modern machine, it's far more reliable. So you're not as worried about overheating. That's one of the improvements for the 2018. It'll be the first year into the US, but that just means that we get the revised engine, the revised bike with all of the updates. There's only a couple of bikes in India available for off-road, and they built this because riders were taking these up into the Himalayas and they were having trouble with the carburation. So this does well at altitude, but it is a very basic bike. The suspension is just a damper rod system with a fairly light spring. It does have a monoshock on the rear, but it's a non-adjustable, very simple. The brakes have a good bite to them. They're definitely not a Brembo or a dual disc, but it'll definitely slow the bike down for what its intended use is. The motor feels a little lawnmower-ish at low speeds, but as it gets up to around the 80 kilometer or 50 miles per hour speed, it really does smooth out. And that's probably gonna be the sweet spot when you're touring on one of these bikes. Riding the bike had a fairly comfortable standing position. The bars feel a little bit narrow for an actual dirt bike. At 6 foot tall, the bike fits me fairly well, if not just slightly on the cramped side. The reach to the controls is good, but they're completely non-adjustable, so there's no adjustment for reach on it, and the stock setting for the clutch is really far out there. There's only one adjustment. It's on the engine case itself, where you can adjust that free play in, and once the bike was adjusted with a clutch in, it became much more fun to ride in the dirt. The handlebars feel very natural on the road, being fairly narrow, but off-road, I would definitely like to see a wider bar and a little bit taller. The most modern aspect of this bike is the display. It's a very nice display with large, easy to read lettering. It has a tachometer, it has a gear selector, it tells you how much fuel you have, it even has a compass on it. Multiple tripometers, it's easy to read during the day and is well backlit and easy to read at night. But outside of that and fuel injection, it's a very basic machine. There's no ABS, there's no electronic packages, there's no fancy adjustable suspension. With only 24 horsepower, it's not exactly exciting, but it is fun. It gets up and you can feel that single puttering underneath you. The suspension is simple, but definitely compliant enough to do normal road travel. Don't expect to do any motocross jumping or crazy stuff like that. It'll get you up to 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. That's 50 to 60 miles an hour pretty comfortably, but don't expect to go a lot more. But man, it feels just like one of those old school bikes, like you're just out there. It's got a nice quirky feel to it. It just stands out, and all the people that come up, they all want to know what it's all about. The Royal Enfield Himalayan is unlike any other adventure bike available in the US.